Hello there, welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about three films that have just been recent releases in the cinema. Someone's doing them all in one video. None of them rise to masterpiece level, which will not surprise you if they're just new released in the cinema. Essentially, one of them I really liked. One of them is very entertaining, one of them is a very flawed film. All of them entertaining in their own way, but some are better than others. So, there's Prince of Badlands, there's The Running Man, and there's Good Fortune, which is a new comedy from Aziz Ansari. He directed it and starred in it. He's also got Seth Rogen and Keanu Reeves in it. That was the best one of the bunch, even though it was the one that did worst, on release. It was basically there and gone. I know it didn't come to my local cinema, and it was far away with terrible screening times. From my cinema you have to drive to for quite a bit. So that one is you can't get a feeling people are burying this film. Did they not want us to see this thing? What the hell? Prince of Badlands and Running Man are a bit easier, but I had to travel for Running Man as well. So it is that thing, is these are kind of the bigger releases before the really big releases, and it come later in the month with Wicked 2, and then you've got Avatar next month. These are the kind of films that are kind of medium budget films of their type. Prince of Badlands and Running Man had big budgets, but compared to Avatar or Wicked, they had fairly mediocre budgets. It was you can tell when you watch them, there was still limitations put on them. There was you didn't have unfettered budgets. I would say I think Prince of Badlands could have done with a little bit more money, and Running Man could have done with a little bit less money to make better films. Is the best way I can put it. Good Fortune actually seemed to have the proper budget for what it needed, which is quite nice. So Prince of Badlands, we'll start with that one. That one was a lot of fun. There were moments. It was set on an alien planet, and the Predator in this one is your lead character. You see his homeland. You see his problems with his father and his brother protecting him, and basically his father views him as a runt, and he has to go to this the most notoriously difficult planet to hunt on to kill this creature that no one's ever killed. So that's his big challenge. So that's a nice plot. It's his father wants something to do with him until he proves himself. His father wants him to die. And so basically he's on a trek through this location where he really is the hunted from almost everything. That's what's really good about the film, is the sense of it's a spare film, but a lead character who does not say much. And he's got a mission, he's got a determination. His brother was killed by his father early on because his brother protected him when his father wanted to kill him because he thought he was a runt who could never survive anyway. So now he has to kill the thing and then avenge his brother. So he has a lot in his mind. There were times in this film I felt that the director didn't have enough time to do some of the action scenes as well as he could have. The big thing for me here is there's moments where the action was good and there's moments where the action was a bit quick cut because we never had time to choreograph it quite to the degree we would have liked to. That comes across in the first scene. It feels like there was a lot more cutting that needed to be, and just throughout the film there's little bits and bobs like that. It's not like it needed a massive increased budget, but a couple of scenes you felt like they could have done with a lot more time to do this. And maybe they had to bring in second unit who maybe just shot general stuff. I don't know how they did it, but there was a sense of maybe they could have done with an extra little bit of money. And a couple of effects you feel the same ways, it could have been a bit more detailed. There's one certain character who starts off as a cute creature, who watching the animation of it, I was thinking, could have done with a tiny bit more. Just a lot more finessing here or there. It felt a bit more cartoony than the rest of the film. So it was so there's just little bits and bobs in this film you felt, well, that could have been done better. The best stuff's the character stuff, really, and some of the action as it goes on. Because you're on an alien planet with creatures that don't have red blood, and there's a lot of robots running around. It means the film can be really violent, but still have a kind of decent rating because there's no red blood, because there's no human characters on it. So it can go kill crazy towards the end and have lots of fun gags. But because there's no, it's robots, there is, it really does feel sometimes like a comedy more than an actual action movie. So that's the downside. But the upside is it allows me to do lots of gags and you can feel not guilty at all but laughing at them. So it loses a bit of intensity but it gains a little bit in humour. There's a robot character played by Elle Fanning who has lost her legs, so she has to be carried like a rucksack by the Predator. The Predator doesn't want to help her, but she helps him at the start to help him escape from the first trap he walks straight into. She helps him survive that, and she says if he takes her back to her ship, she can help him track the creature he's looking for easier. So they create a kind of buddy thing. She never shuts up, and he barely speaks. So it's a fun dynamic. Elle Fanning has to carry a lot of the film with the dialogue. The guy playing the Predator has to carry it with just not saying much and just being intense. And it's, I think it works. Some people think she talks too much and is more annoying. I thought she was fine. Some scenes could have been written a bit better, but the actors pulled it off. I mean, that's the big thing with this film is it's always like it was very entertaining, but it could have been a bit better. That's the big thing with the film is, but it's still entertaining in a way like, yeah, I could happily rewatch this. Fine. It's enjoyable. It's pulp. It's a predator on an alien planet. He's out for revenge. He has to kill a creature, and then he has to deal with these robots that come from humanity who have their own agenda that doesn't include him, and he becomes a target as they move on. So he has to deal with them and deal with his target and then deal with his problems with his father. It's all very enjoyable. The payoffs are nice. They set stuff up and pay it off later on. Sometimes you'll figure it out beforehand, but at least it's doing set up and payoff in a cool way. It's enjoyable what it's doing. Everything works for this film. It just works for what it needs to be. I don't want to say any more about it because I don't want to ruin it. It's a new film. But go see it. If you like fun pulp movies, if you like Predator movies, you'll enjoy this one. If you like fun action movies, you'll enjoy this one. If you've been really critical, you'll find holes in this one. But it's fine. Still very enjoyable. I'll go to Good Fortune next, because that was the best one. It was basically, it's a comedy where Aziz Ansari is this guy who's an editor who's down in his luck. He can't get a job, there's not many jobs around. He's basically sleeping in his car at the moment because he lost his apartment. And he's having a hard time figuring out how to survive in his life. And it's about the system at the moment where even people with education can't make a living. They can't make enough to have a flat or even those basic provisions. And there's also the rich who are making tons of money off them and they're having the easy life. So Seth Rogen plays a guy like that who has money, he's invested well, he came from a good family and he's well off and he's enjoying himself. He doesn't have a family. He's one of those guys who are grown older without responsibilities and he's basically wasting his life is the best way to put it. He get all the monetary advantages, but he doesn't really engage in life at all. He just finds just enjoying himself is good enough. So you have these two contrasts, and even Keanu Reeves as an angel who watches this and sees that Ansari's a lost soul and he wants to help him. And the best way to help him, because he worked for Seth Rogen fired him for a little infraction which wasn't something that should have been a firing offence. It was one of those things that's like, that's a warning. And it was because of something Rogen did that got him into trouble in the first place that caused him to do this. So it was one of those things that Rogen's character doesn't understand. His actions have consequences. And so this angel is not very bright, and Keanu Reeves plays him as not very bright. If you love the Bill and Ted movies, you're going to really enjoy this because Reeves knows how to play a dummy really well. He knows the little pauses you need as a guy's thinking too long and things like that. So he thinks, I'll change the places so that Ansari can understand that there's money doesn't solve your problems, and Seth Rogen understands that how difficult it is to survive in the real world if you don't have much. And the problem is, Ansari actually enjoys his life and doesn't see the problems. He says, money does solve a lot of your problems. And suddenly they can't switch back, and Reeves' angel wings are taken off him, so he has to live as a human until he can get them to switch places again. So that's the comedy, is how do you get Ansari, who's been through hell, and is like, why would I go back to a life that's horrible? And Rogan is, I need to get back to my life. This is horrible. I'm barely surviving. So he's getting the whole horrors of what's going on. And Reeves is trying to get his angel's job back, then he just gives up in humanity entirely. Starts smoking and drinking, and slowly it's about Ansari actually understanding not that rich or poor are defined, but it's much more about what do you want to live for rather than what's your financial status. And Rogan kind of starting to understand that these people he ignores actually do have a gripe, a genuine gripe. So even though it could be very simplistic as an idea, they actually put into nuances. It is about the class of people who are not making a living when they should, who have education but are stuck in dead-end jobs. And it is about the rich who just keep on getting richer and are oblivious to it. So it takes a social issue and adds a supernatural element to it to show you the different areas of the society at the time. The same way they used to do in the 40s. And which they don't do anymore in films. Like, take a silly comedy and actually make it about something. And that's why I responded to it. It's not trying to solve all the problems of the world. It's just about solving the problems of these characters in like 90 minutes one time. It has some funny bits, but it's not trying to be like a laugh out loud comedy every second. It's a comedy with ideas, and it's a character based comedy, so the jokes are about people and how they behave rather than massively conceptual slapstick. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very heartwarming movie because it wasn't trying to be too heartwarming. It was just trying to be... All the characters are very flawed. Even the angel, they're all very flawed. And it's not about them becoming like massively better people. It's about them adjusting to realising where their flaws are and where their responsibilities are and what mistakes they make. And also then moving on from that and actually finding some grace to their lives, which it achieves. So this is like, you should give this one a shot. It's it missed its theatrical window, but it'll be out in digital soon, and it's one to go watch because it is well done. Now we have The Running Man, which was the film that had a lot of goodwill over the last few months. People are looking forward to this one, probably more than the other two. And it came out and it didn't do very well. Did better than Good Fortune, but Good Fortune cost a lot less. So probably Good Fortune will probably make his money back a lot quicker than this one. This one is just one of those films that are just weird. It's like Edgar Wright, who directed it, has had a weird career. He started out strong with Space and the Cornetto trilogy with Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End, which I enjoyed. Hot Fuzz I thought was a bit overrated. He did Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which was very enjoyable, but again had some problems. He did Baby Driver, which I really enjoyed. And his last two films, he's a director who has an enjoyment of filmmaking and genre constraints and genre elements we all know, and then mixing that with life and what we understand about life as well. So it's a cartoonish view of the world. It's very Sam Raimi inspired. And it says that Sam Raimi doesn't make films of the real world, but he makes films about approximation of the world the way we see it. But he adds monsters and things to it, and he's very slapstick. Edgar Wright's kind of the same, but a bit more realistic in some ways. But his last two films have really gone off the rails, because he's trying to move away from the joy of the world in these films and try to be more serious and show the darker side of humanity. But I don't think he's very good at it. And I think he's lost a lot of his strength in the last two films, because both of them have been shoddily plotted. Both films, two films have always had last acts that aren't very good. And it's like, you didn't know how to end this idea you had. Because both of them are like, that's your ending. And they kind of retroactively make the film feel worse. And he's just been in this funk of, the reality side of the world looks much faker when he's doing darker films. Because he doesn't have the grace of... Because when he's doing later films, he can add darkness to them a little bit here or there, and suggestions of things that maybe are... Like in World's End, you get the idea of alcoholism with Simon Pegg's character. And Shaun of the Dead, the idea of Simon Pegg's character living a dead-end job. And Nick Frost in Hot Fuzz is not living up to his potential when he's basically going to waste. And in Scott Pilgrim, he's sort of starting to learn that he's not that great. And he's a bit of a dick at times, and he has to kind of get over himself. And in Hot Fuzz is about a guy who had problems in life, and he tried to find joy despite his problems. And he still got into other problems, but he kind of starts to actually get his life together as he goes, and he starts to see some sort of way out. So there's darkness within the lightness in there that works. The last two films, he's going for darkness over darkness, and basically it means is he's trying to counteract that by having some lightness and other things that just make everything feel fake. So in the last night in Soho, it was about the 60s, using a time travel format of a girl from our time going back to the 60s and seeing the exploitation of women during that time, which is very grim. And they had like a boyfriend who's like a puppy dog almost, and how devoted he is to her. But it eventually becomes grim, and there's usually a lot of music to try and keep it kind of a bit lighter, but there's no real balance, and the plot itself was a bit all over the place. And there was just this sense of a film that was just they hadn't worked to what it should be, and it's probably the wrong film to make, because it was not playing to the director's strengths. It was like, that was a one-off. You'd think, okay, he tried something, and he realised it wasn't working. He'd gone off the rails a little bit. He'd gone too dark, and he had a terrible ending. But that film is still professional. It just didn't work. Now he's done it twice in a row, and it's like, what the hell's going on now? Why does he keep doing this? Because this time it's a running man where a guy in a dystopian future that feels more like a director doing a dystopian future from movies he's seen rather than a point of view of a dystopian future. It does not feel like RoboCop, where you have a director who has a vision of what the world is, what the modern world is, and how this ties into this script and what we can do with it. And with RoboCop, Verhoeven had Ed Neumeyer and Michael Miner, who had a very political view of the world that Verhoeven obviously shared, and they made it really satirical because they were hitting against stuff that you knew was going on, and it's still going on, and you're like, yep, that's legit. And Verhoeven went on with Total Recall and Starship Troopers to keep doing that and create this sci-fi future about fascism, about entertainment and how we get a lot of entertainment. So he was doing lots of things that were interesting. And again, he had a lot of sense of humour to it. In this film, Wright seems to be like trying to ape Verhoeven, trying to ape John Carpenter, Escape from New York, and the kind of downbeat kind of political world mixed with the kind of genre constraints to actually have some fun with genre. But the genre stuff is not as specific as some of his earlier films, and he doesn't really have a point of view of the world. That's what it comes across here, is like, it's a film about dystopian films rather than a film about just now through dystopian films. So everything becomes like second-hand RoboCop, secondhand this, secondhand that. A lot of influence by like 70s movies like Soylent Green, or things like Charlton Heston movies from the 70s. There's a lot of sense of like the 70s movies Charlton Heston made were based on books that had good ideas, and then they became action movies that didn't seem to fit into the premise they were pushing forth. And this film's the same thing. It's an action movie in a dystopian world, but it's not clear like Robocop or the Mad Max films, which were very clear about what's going on. This is a nightmare. It's entertaining because of the action, but it's still a nightmare world you do not want to be in. And it's entertaining because they have a sense of humour about some of the people in this world. This one, the characters aren't that interesting, and the humour's kind of forced because it's kind of based on a foundation that isn't locked down. It's just there. It's just like there's a show called The Running Man. There's all these shows that are dehumanising the people, but everyone's been locked down to expect nothing better. Now, there's a film a few months ago called The Long Walk, based on a Stephen King book, as this one was. They came from the same book. Long Walk was much better than this film. Long Walk actually was character based and knew exactly what it was going for, and it succeeded. This one, it's just all over the place. You have lots of action scenes that would work if, it's a very big if, you felt the character was desperate. Like, he's in a running man, he has to survive on the streets for 30 days, that's the premise. But the character, Glenn Powell plays a character, he's too much of a smart ass. They try to do the Bruce Willis thing in Die Hard, he's cocky under pressure, but the performance doesn't work, because you don't get enough of the idea that he's fighting for his family's sick. He goes to the running man to actually get the money for his daughter so she can get the drugs to actually make her better. He's dragged into the running man, so he has to do this thing and try and survive for 30 days. And it's basically no one's ever survived it. People have gotten close, but no one's ever survived. That's a terrifying thing. And in the book, I've read the book years ago, it felt very oppressive when you're reading the book, you're like, this would be a great film. And it's never worked in film, because they all try and make it glitzy. I mean, the Schwarzenegger film was terrible, then try and make it really glitzy. This one tries to tone it down as if it's like more of a hellhole, and there are times when it looks much more oppressive. But they spend money and technology for stuff you don't need. There's action scenes you don't really need in this. And they're all kind of Hollywood jazzy action scenes. There's like, we have a pretty explosion, we have these jokes, that joke, which takes away from the idea of a character on the run, terrifying and showing pluckiness. Powell either plays it rebellious or this kind of fake thing of I'm doing it for my family, but you don't ever feel that. The family's not in it long enough for you to actually care. The dynamic's not established well enough, and Wright really doesn't seem to direct the actors here that well. It's one of those things, I think he's like, depends on the actor he gets usually in films. His films tend to have like good performances and not so good performances. He's such a visual director that I think it's something like John Carpenter's the same thing. John Carpenter leaves the actors alone and maybe direct them in little bits and bobs, but if a performance is failing, he's not going to be able to pull it out, the actor. And Wright's kind of the same way, and there's times I'm watching this thinking you should have gone for more takes here because this is not a good take. And it's like, does he not know how? Did he not get the performance of the actor? Or this is probably this is what I feel more. It was in the writing beforehand. The writing was not clear because the character is not clear. The character is based on various genre conceits, but the details are not there. He's either going from being a character dealing with his temper and trying to fight for his family, which isn't detailed enough for an actor to really get his teeth into. It's very vague. So I've seen Glenn Powell and other stuff and he's been pretty good. This one he's very vague, and I feel a lot of it's writing. So he's going from one to the other, and it's obviously Die Hard mode, but it's a Die Hard mode as if it is sequels. It's like Die Hard 4 mode more than Die Hard mode, and you're never really behind them. Because this film reminded me a lot of Live Free or Die Hard. It's entertaining enough, but none of the sequences build to anything. It's just like you're going through these scenes, and this one there's some nice sequences in it. Some of the chases are fun to watch. Some of the supporting characters, like Michael Cera, turns up for 15 minutes, and he's a lot of fun. There's a black family who are part of the resistance. They have a lot of fun until they're overused in the end. William H. Macy turns up for 10 minutes. He does his thing. There are bits of good films in there. It's episodic, but the story's episodic, didn't build to anything, and the lead character is just kind of there, and is not really. If you ever don't ever feel much terror for him, you just feel like he's doing all these stunts to try and escape, but you never have the sense of he's actually scared, and that's a problem in this premise. And it just becomes, you feel just very distant from the film. And the actual accumulation of details of what he's going through to survive just isn't there. It doesn't feel like, it just feels like a movie rather than an experience you're going through the character through. It just feels you're watching a movie character, and it's like a movie that's well done-ish, but it's not amazing. So that's definitely been a good action movie in a mediocre one. This one is in a mediocre category. And I like Edgar Wright's movies generally, but this one and his last one were both like, what are you doing? The last one, I felt like an auteur film that went wrong. This one feels like he's trying to be a mainstream movie director, but he's picked up all the wrong stuff from people. It's like he doesn't have a strong producer telling him this narrative does not work. We need to find ways to make it work. There's an ending that's they try to be like the book for a bit, then swerve you. The book's very dark ending and try and make it look like that's going to be the ending, and then it's trying to swerve you. But the ending is so dumb that it's like, just like, oh, give me a break. There's massive plot holes, you know it's because you're watching it. And it's like, you don't want to do that ending, avoid that whole sequence and do something else to the final third. And the final third is so bad that it takes you away from the nice moments early on. Even though there wasn't much satire that worked, it was still kind of enjoyable in a Robocop 2 way, really. Where Robocop 2 didn't have a great satire like the first one, but there's some nice ideas here or there. You didn't have much emotional investment, but there were some nice bits in it. Again, this film feels a bit like that as well. It's just that film where you wish it was better. It was like, you've got a good book, but they try and make it an action movie when it was really a suspense movie. That's a big thing. It should have been a suspense movie. And they don't do suspense, they do action. And you're kind of like, they're doing gags all the time, which worked a lot better in Predator Badlands than here. Here it works like not very often. So yeah, it's a disappointment. It's still one, it's watchable though. I mean, the craftsmanship is there. It's just like the script isn't ready. They obviously pushed forward a script before it was ready. They never thought it out, like the visuals with the atmosphere for how to propel an audience forward. Because they'll try to do the wrong thing in the first place. It was like, if you're going to do the Running Man book, you do the Running Man book. You don't do, or you take the kind of atmosphere of it. The Running Man book was a pulpy novel, but it had an atmosphere where you're reading it like it was, you were always on the edge. And this one didn't feel that way. And I think having less money would have helped with the less access to the explosion thing, and it would have to be cleverer with the suspense sequences. That would have helped this film enormously. If they had less access to stuff to blow stuff up and concentrate on a man on the run, you'd have done a lot more with this film. Instead, it just becomes this kind of over-budgeted film that feels it's stuff you'd have in the 90s a lot, where they had a lot of money and it meant they could just throw money at it rather than be inventive with it. And the film feels that way. So that's me, that's the 3 films. I hope you enjoyed the video. That's me for now. Right, bye.